Hi everyone. Okie dokie. Looks like we have everybody here. Once again, guys, thank you so much for going and joining us. It's well, at least on my side over here, it's a lovely, bright winter's day. Even though this morning we had fog that was just amazingly terrible. But anyway, I hope it's good weather by where you are. If not, I hope you're wrapped up warmly, or well, you got an aircon, depending on which way it goes. But thank you so much for joining me. Let's go and get a start to this today. Okay. First off, before I begin, and just while I'm waiting for people to go see my screen, first off, are there any questions from yesterday? Okay. If there are any questions, please put them in the questions box. Otherwise, if you can see my screen, please put the hand up, and just let me know that I'm not just talking to a dead mic, and I'm just imagining you here. Okay, right there. Thanks, Philip. You can okay, you can see my one. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so thanks so much, guys. Yes, once again, we're starting again on the iVend retail deployment landscape, because you are going to discover this is my favorite slide. It pretty much explains most of iVend, and I need to go tell these people to stop bugging me. Right, there we go, priority only. So once again, back to here. Yes, this is one of my favorite slides, as you guys have probably figured out. The big thing with this is we are going to come back again and again and again to this, because I've got many things to go and explain on it, and also it helps me explain most of this. But before we even get too much further into this, I've got one question for you guys, just to go and make sure that everybody's up to speed on this. Who can tell me what how you're going to access the iVend help? If you can just put your answer into the questions box, and I can see if that has actually managed to go and if that managed to go seep in. Okay, here we go. Yes, in they come. Yes, okay. So Philip and Kirsty definitely remember. For the rest of you, well, if you don't remember, it's Control F1. And if you don't remember that, then, well, you're just doomed in the exam. So my entire purpose here is to make sure that, well, is to try and make sure that you're not doomed in the exam. Because being doomed is very doomy, and it's just, yeah, we try and avoid that, you know. It's generally on the scale of 1 to not good, that's a really not good. So let's try and not be that, and we'll carry on. So moving on, now yesterday we went over the iVend point of sale and how that works, and I think we've covered that pretty well. And because of that, I'm not actually going to really be coming back to this for the next while. What we are instead going to be looking at is the iVend management console and how that is put together. Next question for you guys is, how many of you have managed to go and download and install the DemoStack? Can you please just put up your hand for that? Has anybody been able to download and install the DemoStack? Anybody? Okay, all right. So nobody has. Philip has downloaded and installed it. Okay. Well, one out of everybody ain't bad. So okay. Oh, you joined a bit late yesterday. Okay. All right. Well, Philip, the video for yesterday will be online, so you'll be able to catch up on that. I am uploading it. Unfortunately, it's probably only going to be online tomorrow or Thursday. So please make sure that you are logged into the City Access Knowledge Portal, which is over here. City Access Knowledge Portal. Have a look at this page for the Partner Resource Kit. I am going to go and, so there you go, knowledge.cityaccess.com. Log in and make sure you're all set up with that, because, okay, so I see Philip, you're logged in twice. So yeah, for person who is Philip 2, okay, all right, so as long as you catch up, that's fine. Log in, get yourself sorted out, you should be fine on this. You should be fine on this. Just make sure you're all updated with knowledge.cdxs.com. Next up, now we return to your regularly scheduled review of the iVend Management Console. And I've just realized that there is actually one thing we do need to do before we set up the management console, because typically what will happen is the first time you install iVend, you install it over here on the enterprise server, and at the same time you will generally need to go and start to configure your integrations. How you configure your integrations, once again, that's on the Knowledge portal. I know I'm going to say that a lot, guys, because, well, guys and girls, because unfortunately we're kind of time limited here, and I don't have time to really go through all of this, and I'm sure you guys got work to do, and I'm pretty sure that some of you are probably doing emails in the background as I speak at this very moment. So the thing about that is that I'm going to try and keep it as short and quick as possible. So that means that unfortunately I do have to chop out things like we can't really do those bits, but we are going to need to go, and you are going to need to go look at them online if you're going to go write on Friday. And I would really recommend writing on Friday, because I can help mark your paper then. I do not mark papers after, I do not really mark papers afterwards. But the big one that we want to have a look at is this little puppy over here. This is the iVend Configuration Manager. And once it's installed, you will go see that it appears in your that appears over here under your, where's EFGHI? There we go, iVend Configuration Manager. I've also pinned it to my to the menu over here. So, and I now have that running in my taskbar. So once you open that up, you can right click on that, and there's a couple of things that you need to look for. First one is your connection manager. Now, your connection manager, this details how the POS or the manager station connects to either the store server or how the manager station connects across to the enterprise server. It's one of the first things you need to set up in iVend. So server name, database name, user ID for your SQL Server, password for your SQL Server, and then that's basically it. We do have a little IP lookup over here that will help you understand what's going on. But, well, that's just to go and help you navigate through how exactly things fit together. Typically, your server name should be your IP address. I've shortcutted it a bit and put it as localhost. So after that, there are various other ones to put up. These include things like the iVend API, because you can have the API connected in different ways. Once again, you're going to see a lot of these screens look very similar. Server name, database name, user ID, password. Dead simple. And then we go right click again. It's the same thing for web report viewer, and then we also do the same thing for replication, scheduler, and e-commerce. It's fairly straightforward. Once you'll have a look, as I can show you, it's very, very simple. The reason I don't have this set up is because I'm running in the DemoStack mode, which, if you remember from yesterday, is basically where I have my store server app, my POS, and my store manager station all on the same machine. So that is the way that the DemoStack sets itself up. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, we can come across to the management console. So you'll need to go set up that, and you'll need to set up the connection settings for there, because that will actually tell you how to go set up, well, how the management console will connect to and what database it goes to. Please be aware we are a multi-tenanted system. If you had sharp eyes, you might have noticed that one of the options over here on the connection manager is database selection, which, yes, you do need to go and have that there. You can have that ticked, in which case you will be able to multi-tenancy. Please be aware that every iVend database needs to have its own set of licenses. We do not share licenses between databases, unlike some of the ERP systems out there. You need to go, quite literally, it's a license that's dedicated to one database. That's it. And switching them around is can be a bit of a thing, but I'll go through exactly what we got, and hopefully you'll be able to go see how it all fits together. So now that I've done that, let's go across, because the first screen that will open up when you go and you load up your iVend Management Console is the enterprise setup. Now, these are the enterprise settings. There are some over here. I'm going to try and hit the highlights, and we're going to try and whack as many of these as we can as we go through. First one is you have, well, email, address, company name, fairly straightforward. Then we get down to ERP system type, and this one is where you need to really select how you're going to be deploying iVend. There are a couple of options over here, and you only get to go choose this setting once. The reason for that is that once that's set, that determines how the rest of the system reacts to your reacts to the settings over here. This is also due to the unique way certain ERP systems go and interact with iVend, or the unique way that they're going to be set up. The settings, for instance, in Sage 300 are quite different to the way that they are set, for instance, in SAP, which is also quite different to the way that you set it to Sage X3, which is also quite different to the way you set it up in Microsoft Dynamics NAV. They are not all, trust me, they are not all created the same with your different vulnerabilities and different, not vulnerabilities, with your different setups and complexities. That's the word I'm looking for, to your individual ERP systems. After that, so you'll need to go just make sure that you select the right one. Now, the ones that you have are, there's none, which is, it will not allow you to select. You cannot select none. If you are not connecting through to an ERP system, you select iVend Unplugged. After that, you'll see there's one there for Business One. You'll see there's one there for, if I remember correctly, for Sage. There is one for NAV, if I remember correctly. There's even one called Others with API, which you can select as well. But you'll need to go select the right one over there. And on your first implementation, we will guide you as to which is the correct one over there for that. And as well, once again, please check your local integration guide to go see what is the correct setting. It will detail it there. Next thing up is your localization type. Now, typically your localization type is going to be, well, it might not be USA. It will be something along the lines of UK or South Africa. We do have both of those over there. Both these in the actual localization types that you can select. There is a fair number. It does not cover all the planets, all the planets. It does not cover all the countries worldwide. It does cover a fair number of them. And it does cover, it does include ones, for instance, like UK and South Africa. So those being the two most popular in this time zone, I'm guessing you'll probably select one of those two. And what that affects is actually this over here, which is our system display settings. And our system displays, the localization, it doesn't just do the display settings, it does a couple of other things. But depending on which one you select over here, it really goes and determines what what exactly it's going to display. There are multiple types of display settings over here. In fact, there are ones that cover just about everywhere, including English South Africa, which will go put your dates and times and all the rest of it in the correct order. Otherwise, you do have to go, and the one I actually think I ended up using was English United States. So there you go. That's actually where you go and you change your currency symbol. Okay, so that's where you set the currency symbol. I've changed it from dollars to R because I'm in South Africa. So I need to go and put it in so that's why when I'm demoing, everything shows up in rands as opposed to dollars. If you want to do that, you can do the same thing and it will go and change all of the currency symbol to the correct symbol for you. Right, after that, we also get to, you need to set up your purchase and your sales tax codes and purchase tax codes. These over here, if you're integrating through to anything, once again, they're vital. You need to go follow, it will detail it in the guide exactly how you're going to connect through, what you connect through to, and what exactly you do in there to go set it up. So please go check over there and you will see exactly how to go and get those set up and into the system. We are actually going to go open up one of these because it's, let me just go over here. You'll create a new one. Typically, I end up creating one like exempt or not integrated, and you'll be able to set it up from there. Let's go open up Alabama and just have a quick look at that. And from here you can go see the Alabama setup that we have. Your sales tax codes can be set up a number of ways. Typically, once again, if you are integrated, this is dictated by your ERP system. If not, you're in standalone, in which case you can go set this up how exactly you want. Code, description, rate, current rates, because remember the taxation rates can change over time. For instance, out here in South Africa, we recently actually had the VAT rate change from, let me see, it was 14% and it's now 15%. So that's just an example. And what you would do over there in that particular case is you can go add detail. You can then say which date it's the rate changes at, and then you can go change your tax. You put your changed tax rate over there. So that would be 15 in this case. You can also go and say, does it apply to surcharges or not? Is this a tax-exempt tax code? Guys, you are going to see some things in the system that are, how can I put it? Okay, that are a bit weird. And trust me, there is method to the madness. And essentially it all goes back to, not quite this slide, but actually this slide. And that's because we do have a global presence. So there are, trust me, the taxation rates out there get really weird in some places. Latin America, I know, is particularly difficult in some ways, as well as North America. In fact, I do happen to know that in Denver, Colorado, there are, for some products, there are 8 different levels of tax that need to be taken into account. So, yeah, if you do live in a place that you only have one level of tax to take into account, that's something to be quite happy with. So, anyway, back to here and then back to over here. So, iVend does, by the way, obviously we do work quite a bit in the US and we can handle that. So taxation is not really something I'm too worried about. In fact, and besides from that, we have also recently done another overhaul of it just to go take into account those places. So yeah, because we're those kind of guys who just go out of our way to go make sure that you'll be able to handle all those weird little situations where, oh no, it's taxable when it's this phase of the moon, but not when the sunspots rise on the east, or whatever it is. I swear some of the countries out there are insane. But anyway, perfectly nice place to live. Just their politicians are just nuts. Back to reality. Over here, you can also go set your tax type. Is it, now the actual drop down over here, if I can, I'm just going to go to new. Your actual drop down over here is input, output, or both. Input or output tax. So is it tax on your purchase? Is it tax you take into account on your purchases? Is it tax you take into account on your sales? Or like in South Africa over here, for us it's both, which means that it's 14%, well, 15% both ways. So 50% on purchases, 15% on sales. Do you include it in your item costs or not? And I have got an extra bit of functionality enabled for me, which is subsidiary functionality, which allows me to essentially to go and have multiple subsidiaries within one database. So quite a cool bit of kit that we can do. Back to the enterprise settings. And over here, we can go also set in things, federal tax ID. Guys, that doubles up as VAT number if you really... And to just show you how easy it is to do that, you can go right-click, and there are a number of options that we have here in the right-click menu, one of which is change caption. In here, I can then change it to be something like VAT number. Now, the actual ones over here, you can go set this for specific culture information. I've got it set as English United States, as indeed you can actually see over there on my culture info. But that's just the generic one. You can actually set your culture information, your language essentially, on a per user basis. So that means that I could go and set some of this to be, for instance, there we go. I've got 2 different types of Afrikaans. I've got Namibia and South Africa that we could go put it in as. Otherwise, I could also go and, for those of you further afield, let me see, it's in here as... Yeah, I mean, if you want to get really, if you want to get really esoteric, there's Esperanto, because yes, that, believe it or not, that is actually a language. English for Vanuatu. Yeah, I didn't realize that that was a yeah, it's there. So English Zambia, English Zimbabwe. Let's go over here. And the other one I normally get is, there you go, Kiswahili. Right. So we do have that available as well. We do have places to load that up, as well as also, if I go here, isiZulu and isiXhosa for us locals out here in South Africa. Now, the next thing I normally get a question is, wow, you're translated to all those languages. No. Okay, we are translated to 15 of these languages. However, the actual translation import is available to you. Quite literally, it's an import that you load it into the system and it recognizes, hey, I can now speak Zulu or Xhosa or Swahili or Afrikaans, but we are not translated to any of those languages yet. That's up to you guys. We give you the template. You guys can go and maintain it and import it, because as we are discovering in some places, the Google translation of some of these things that one or two of our partners did is, sketchy is probably the best way I can describe it. Yeah, sketchy. So if, for instance, I think the Italian translation, before we grabbed it and did it properly, yeah, that was a bit different, but fortunately that one is now fixed. We do actually and those 15 languages do actually cover most of the languages spoken worldwide, English obviously being top priority. One other thing I do want to point out about the language is that it does not affect the help. Okay, whatever language you set there does not affect the help. The help is only available in English. So sorry to say that, but yeah, it is the international language of commerce. But yes, once again, if you want to translate the help to something else, we can provide you the templates for it. So that's entirely up to you. But for the moment, that'll cover most things that we want. So I'm going to go change that federal tax ID to VAT number. I press OK. It changes it over there. And now, so long as I log in and my user is set to use the US English culture info, it will go see VAT number over there, which is actually probably a bit of an oxymoron. In the US, they don't actually have VAT number. For them, it's federal tax ID. But still, you get the idea. Next one up is retail profile, which I'm going to come back to later, because it is massively important for the way that we set things up. But like I said, I'll come back later and we can have a look at that. Allow negative inventory. Yeah, this is normally the big no-no of everything, but there's a couple of things I want to discuss with you about this. Because heading back to my favorite slide over here, we can go set negative inventory by store or warehouse, as the case may be. So you can say some stores may run at negative inventory for various reasons, but other stores do not. You can also go say, do we run negative inventory in iVend, but not in the enterprise? And do we go, how exactly do we go, and where exactly do we go and fit it in? You can also go say, do you run negative inventory per subsidiary? Well, and when I say you can run negative inventory over here in the enterprise, you can also not run negative inventory in the ERP, which means that when it integrates through, you're going to need to go check your integration log to see why things didn't integrate. So, but that's really up to you. Most retailers I've seen these days just go say, we do not do negative inventory, because it is right there. If you've got inventory there, you've got inventory. That's it. Can be a bit of a thing to go through. And I've got questions and hands up. Okay. Why is negative inventory a no-no? Ooh, okay. The reason I'm finding negative inventory is just not used is that I think in the past it was never very well implemented in some of the other ERP systems out there. Now, I've seen this with a number of ERP systems where they tried to do it, and really, once you go negative inventory, it's very difficult to pull the system back from it. You tend to go and hit large overruns and large sort of cost. People tend to abuse it, is what I suppose I should really say. It's all very well if you're in a system where you're on top of it and it's a small system, or you have the company culture where, hey, we shouldn't have a negative inventory, but we'll allow it this one time. And, maybe it's because there's a goods receipt coming in that hasn't been processed at the manager station. but the item's made it to the store floor and it needs to be sold. And that's normally where I go and that's normally where I see people want negative inventory, is the goods haven't been receipted in, but they've somehow got out onto the store floor because it's a hot item. Everybody just wants to sell it and get out there and make money. But the reason that a lot of people don't do that anymore is because, it just basically means that you can have, what happened was is that at a lot of the stores, the management was sitting there and they just weren't, they do like one giant goods receipt to go say, oh, well, this is all the negative stock that's there and we'll just do a giant goods receipt. Meanwhile, the big problem is that that causes problems with your stock takes. It means that you're not really monitoring your theft that well. With these near real-time systems like iVend, you can avoid a lot of that if you're on top of it. And it also means that a lot of people at a lot of people at head office are forcing the people at the store to actually run things correctly. Because if they're not running things correctly, then if they're not running things correctly, then that's an issue. Okay. All right. Thanks, Philip. I saw your hand up over there. But yes, guys. Once again, I do want to. If you guys do have any questions, please go and put them out there. I do actually want them. It's just easier to answer them now than as before. Okay. All right. No problem, Philip. All right. Okay. So yeah. All right. I'm just going to put those hands down. Unless there's anything else anyone wants to ask. Once again, please just ask away. Now, back over here to this. So, yeah, negative inventory, not really a thing that people want to do anymore. Used to be a thing, now not really. Culture info. Once you have your culture, we've talked extensively about that already, but this is the enterprise culture info. Like I said, you can actually set that down on a per user basis. Then we get to a batch of extra settings that you can do. Credit limit check, show product by vendor, if you really want to do it that way. Allow price change when you're doing a goods receipt to the purchase order. Some places allow this, some places do not. Some places just say the price does not change. The price is negotiated by head office. The store receipts this. They do not need to know the price. They don't need to go figure. The store just needs to sell. That's it. Pricing resolution. This is now where we come to some of and you're going to see this happening a lot in iVend. There's a lot of things about which way do you resolve the price? How do you resolve the price? How do you go and determine what price is used at what point, and with what discount is used at what point in the system? And trust me, the retailers are, they're all over for this. So they want this like no tomorrow, because in retail, your lifeblood is sales, right? If you do not have that right discount on at the right time at the right place, you can die in retail very, very, very quickly. So you got to be there. You got to be up top. You got to be constantly promoting, constantly advertising, and one of your biggest weapons is pricing. Now, the pricing resolution over here allows you to go and choose resolve to lowest, resolve to highest, or none. If it's set to none, it uses the native pricing resolution within iVend. So it will automatically say, this is the price of the item as assigned to the price list at the store. If you go to resolve to lowest, it actually there's a couple of places you can set price lists in the system that you'll see. For instance, there could be a customer price list, there could be a store price list, and there could be a regional price list. Now, which price list does it use? Does it use the customer price list? Does it use the store price list or the regional price list? This could be for a number of reasons. But there you can go say, okay, resolve to the lowest or resolve to the highest. So, yeah, once again, there are places in the world where this does happen, where they do have multiple price lists and they do determine exactly how they're going to do it. But that's an option that you got there. Apply sale discount on transaction total after tax or before tax. Typically, it's not done after tax, because you can find that people end up discounting the tax off the transaction. So once again, worldwide, we have options. Support multiple transaction type mode. If you guys remember, that was me going here yesterday and going and saying, yes, you can go and buy an item. Yeah, you see it. Yeah. And once you go and you buy it, so there we go, it's loading up. There it is. Sorry guys, my machine's a little slow this morning. Hasn't had its coffee yet. And then in the same transaction, you can refund a second item. So that's the multiple transaction type mode that we're talking about there. Allow sales, multiple sales people on transaction item. Typically, I find that happens when you are in like jewelry store, because in most normal stores, if I go across here to my item edit, you'll see it only goes and allows really one salesperson to be assigned to say who would help me. In this other case, I can have, so say for instance, I'm selling it's a computer store, might be another one, or an electronics store, something like that. So you've had like 3 or 4 people help you. Okay, yes, I need it. Yes, when I bought the computer, well, we had James, who's the one rep, and Don, who's another thing, and they both sort of helped me to determine that this is the computer I wanted. At which point you can go say, well, who gets the commission on it? Is it 50%, 50%, or what's the story? By the way, we do not calculate commissions in the system in this version. There are some commissions that we do calculate in the next version. Typically, if you do want to calculate commissions, that is a report that you would need to write. And the reason that we don't go and write those sort of reports is because commissions is a deep, dark hole that we really don't want to go down and try and do it, because everyone seems to calculate commissions slightly differently. Open sales attributes automatically. This is if you wanted to go and there is actually a sales attribute that you can go put in. I think it's sales edit. These are essentially, there you go, collect attributes, which is a separate screen that would open up. There you go. Essentially, these are user-defined fields that you can add to the transaction. So, for instance, if you wanted somebody to go say, for instance, oh yes, there we go, the duty-free. Duty-free integrations that we've done, you need to go record what's the passenger's flight number, age, sex, ethnicity, that kind of stuff. Of course, what we did actually find is that in most cases, all of a sudden everybody was, what was it, 18 to 35 white male, because those were the top selections, and everybody just went tick, 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 done. And then they'd record the flight number and then sell the item. So once again, no accounting for the actual what the cashiers are actually going to do with all these options. Force collecting the entire sales amount in advance or not. Do you want to do that or not? Gift certificate, allow sale and redemption in single transaction. I do love this one, because out there is a place in the world where you can effectively give somebody a gift certificate and have it redeemed in the same transaction. That, if I ever saw a tax dodge, that is it. Sending us anonymous usage data, I'm sure we use it somewhere. If not, well, that's up to you. Afterwards, allow automatically select serial and batch items. If you are going to do, we are fully serial and batch compliant. That's not a problem. We can do that. The problem, the thing over here is you can go and say, how do you select this for this item? For here, this is the general setting. You can also select this on a per item basis. So you can say, oh, it's manual, or it's expiry date, or lowest price, or first highest price, or creation date, or if one only, then it automatically selects it. So that's an option you can do. User-defined product IDs, I'm going to warn you about this one. If you select this, then what will happen is it will only allow the head office to create items. The reason being is that if store 1 decides to create an item with the same code as store 2, and we try and integrate that, instant database lock. So we say, yes, you can create your own item codes at the enterprise, but not at the stores. If you want the stores to be able to create items, you leave this box unchecked, and you go and then we go and we create our own item codes in the system. Allow partial receiving of inventory. So if you're doing goods receipt against a purchase order, you can partially receive it. Same thing for stock transfer shipments. If you're receiving the shipment, then you can do a partial receipt of that, and then you can have an outstanding amount that then gets receipted later when it inevitably arrives. Replication batch size is something you guys don't really need to play with, at least not in your normal setups. Really, my recommendation is leave it alone. The replication batch, what it actually does is it determines how big the packets are of data that moves backwards and forwards across here. It's one of the triggers to go and move data across. It's not the only trigger. There are multiple triggers that we can use, but it is one of the triggers that we do use. And if you do and if you are going to go and if you're going to go change it, typically it's to try and speed things up, or you can use it to slow things down if you want. But in most cases, you aren't going to do that. The only time you might change that is if you're in a testing environment and you want things to go slightly quicker. So for instance, it's not going to go take half an hour to go and integrate prices from the enterprise to the store. Okay. Allow add items for goods returned to GRPO. Yes, you can do. It's a thing. You can do that. Then next up, can you backdate the end of day process? Yes, if you want to, you can. That is something you can do if you want. Sometimes you do have to do that. Other times, not really. Allow duplicate barcodes on products, because as I've discovered, even the big giants who go and use and are meant to go buy their barcodes and meant to go certify it, there is actually a certification. There is actually a place online you can go buy your barcodes so that they are internationally certified, and nobody else will have that number. But having said that, some people just go, we'll just make up our own, and they do. And okay, that's what happens. And then that's actually a bit of a problem, because all of a sudden you end up with duplicate barcodes on items, which is intensely annoying, because all of a sudden the system has to recognize that. We can stop that. As you see, the system at the moment is set to stop. Otherwise, you can allow that if you do want, but that entirely depends on which sort of business you're in. Expiry date required for serial and batch items. You can have those as well. What is your advice? Geez, Philip, you've got quite a few questions here. Okay, so what is my advice for a customer who wants to run negative inventory and has also enabled batch management? Which place online can you go to buy barcodes? Okay, Philip, the problem, to go answer your first question, the problem with the batch management is we actually require a batch to be in the system in order to sell it. So effectively, yeah, it's not really possible. They need to go receipt the stock in. Look, you can still have negative inventory for the non-batch items, but for the batch items, for the serial number items, it requires that to be there. You can't just generate it on exit. As for where you go online to buy them, Philip, I'm going to have to just say Google it. Unfortunately, we don't have time to really go into that sort of level of depth over here. But I believe there's, I found it a couple of years back. I'd need to go back and have a look. But seriously, you're much, look, you're listening to me. I'd suggest just quickly Google it and see where you can buy barcodes. I'm pretty sure it's not going to take too long. All right, expiry date for serial and batch item. Yes, we do track those. Yes, remember that's part of your resolution that you can do up top. Next thing up is use advanced authorization, which is what you saw pop up yesterday when I did that, when I did the cash in and a cash out. You can have multiple levels of advanced authorization. You can have single levels of advanced authorization. But essentially it allows you to, well, the multiple levels is the entire reason you'd really have advanced authorization. Essentially, it means that you can have two people sign off on a specific transaction as opposed to just one. Allow over-receiving and also allow over-receiving in GRPO and also in stock transfer shipment. The reason that we have these there is, yeah, sometimes people do just, yeah, people take chances in shipping. It really is actually a problem because they're like, oh no, we'll just, yeah, they ordered this. Oh no, it's sudden last minute order. Yeah, just send it all together. And yeah, and then on our side, we're sitting there going, we can't proceed that because that's this order and we haven't received the other order. And yeah, so we do understand, we do allow people to go and receipt and stuff. That is not a problem. Inventory merge count, you can, the reason we have this is you can actually set up inventory counts for separate sections of the store. Okay, so count the electronics section, count the clothes section, count the, I don't know, white goods section, as the case may be. If you're doing a store like that. Then what you can do is at the end of that, you can say, okay, we counted all these different sections on different days, but we're going to merge them all into one count and post it. So you can choose whether it counts all onto the current date, the earliest date, or the latest date, and you can choose how that merges together. Enable locations, that's kind of part of what I was mentioning here. Now, for those of you working with Sage 300, I do realize that enabling locations sounds a bit weird because locations, as you know, are warehouses or pretty much the same. Once again, guys, this is where the language of iVend is something we need to learn. Locations in iVend are not warehouses. Essentially, they are sub-locations of a warehouse. Okay, and what I mean by that is if you walk into one of these big stores like Spar, ShopRite, Checkers, if you're further north then Tumaini or one of these other places would be like, you go into there and you'll see that they have got a fresh fruit and veg section, a hot food section, they might have a liquor store section. You know, they'll probably have a butchery, bakery, fishmongers, all those different sections within the store. And the entire idea with that is that you can divide the store up into those individual sections, which means that you can only sell certain things from individual places. It also means that you can stop things going into the wrong place. So for instance, I can't sell toasters from the fishmonger, from the butchery section. Okay, I can't sell kettles from the fish section, for instance. It just stops people doing those things that, and yes, once again, I said, if you're used to ERP, this is something you have to learn. In a store, you've got a batch of bored people standing around trying to figure out new ways to fleece the system. As one store owner has told me, right, and I tell this to all the people who I teach, in retail, people are trying to steal from you, are constantly trying to steal from you. They are either stealing it, it's either stealing it out the back or out the front. What that means by that is it's either your staff trying to go steal from you, or it's people trying to go, or it's your customers trying to steal from you by shoplifting or whatever the case might be. Or just going and arguing with prices or trying to get whatever it is. Trust me, it is actually, some people make a living on this out there. Yeah, it is an actual major problem. So the entire idea with locations is that you can't go say, hey, I bought this from the wrong section in the wrong place and this got miscounted, or because miscounts is something specifically that that's a way you can go and actually lose a lot of, you can lose tons of stocks in miscounts. Because, oh no, it wasn't the wrong section and we forgot to count it. Oh, so these things just disappeared. Nobody knows about it. Yeah, that does happen. In fact, actually one place, and to give you an idea how bad this can get, one story from, yeah, it was one of the places we're currently implementing. This is one of the reasons we're currently implementing them, is one of the stores they had, the pilferage was so bad that when when head office actually got around and looked at the store's numbers, they said, no, we're sending an entire team of auditors out there to go see what the problem is with you. The store manager got wind that this was happening, and he decided that he looked at how much he'd actually stolen, and decided that it was probably easier that he just burned down the store than actually getting caught with the amount of stuff he'd stolen. Yeah. So yes, that did actually happen. He burned down his own store. At which point they basically sued. They said, well, how much, can you imagine how much he must have stolen to think that burning down the store was a logical option than them going and suing him for all the stuff that he'd actually taken. So yeah. Okay, off the reminiscence bus and back over to here. Enable log replication. So if you do want to replicate your logs from store to head office, just to go see who's doing what. As well as, do you allow items to be sold with a zero price? Typically this is checked because this enables, this over here, you get promotional materials from people. This includes typically, oh sheesh, what's one of the last ones that I saw? I saw that it was for one of these Bry barbecue places out here. They were giving you a free sort of hand fan that you could use to go fan the flames of a fire as you were going and starting your Bry barbecue in the during the day. So that was a free promotional item. They were giving it out to the first 200 people. So that's technically an actual item that gets sold at zero cost. If you're here in South Africa, Lego, well, no, it's not Lego. It's, well, Checkers is doing these, not Lego bricks kind of promotion at the moment, where it's compatible with all major building block brands. I see. Not really. I've tried. I've got my kids have tried, and they really don't like it anymore. But anyway, so that promotion. Those items, you buy 200 rands worth of stuff and you go and you get the Lego stuff, the knockoff Lego, I should call it. You get that from them, and essentially the thing with that is it's because that's given away at zero price. So otherwise you can actually buy the little pouches, but those pouches are given away at zero. But normally buy 200 rands worth of stuff and you get them at zero price. After that, update inventory status within store group. You can do that as well. We'll come back to store groups a bit later. Next up, allow inter-store transactions, yes or no? Yeah, if you do want to allow people to do inter-store transactions, yes. If you don't, no. And what essentially that means is that I can buy at, say, store A, have it delivered from store B. Typically, this over here is not such a problem for us in the actual retail system. It's a bigger problem in the accounting package, because when you integrate this back to the accounting package, you get into things like, well, whose bottom line does it affect? Whose commission does it affect? So if I sell something in store A but have it delivered from store B, and then it breaks down and I return it to store B, does that mean that store B takes the penalty, or does store A take the penalty? Those are the kind of things that you need to be aware of for the accounting side. Transaction server, typically I just normally activate this. It's not activated here because, once again, I'm using everything on my computer. This transaction server over here, the entire idea with it is to go and help transactions move swiftly across the system. Normally I just activate it and it works. Please read up online to see more about it. Transaction rollup. Now, this over here is used quite extensively with the ERP systems, because the ERP systems are not designed to have several hundred transactions integrate with them every couple of minutes. And because we're near real-time system, particularly when you go and you get your large batches of stores, so if you've got like 50 or 60 or 100 or 1,000, then all of a sudden you get like 10, well, all of a sudden you can go get thousands of transactions coming in at one time very quickly. So instead what this does, and I encourage you to read up more online, there is actually a very good article about it, is this will go take all of your, all the invoices, for instance, and it will go clump them together for, say, a period of time, say an hour, and then it will go roll them up. And it keeps most of the detail. Well, the detail is kept over here in the enterprise, so you can still see all the individual transactions just what's sent across to the ERP is condensed into one transaction. It still keeps all the individual details of, say, this amount went to cash, this amount went on credit card, this amount went on account. But it kind of puts everything together in such a way that it actually has rolled up the transaction into one big transaction, which is much more easy for these ERP systems to digest. Loyalty has got a very big question. Yes or no? It's a toughie. Up to you. Please remember, when you buy with your first purchase of licenses, when the customer first buys licenses from us, they get 2,000 free loyalty customers. So that's available straight off the bat. Otherwise, no. Otherwise, if you want more, well, then you need to buy them from us. After that, subsidiaries. I have enabled these. You do not. It's not mandatory for the system to work. You can leave these off. I have enabled these because I do various and random and weird things to my system to try and break it, or to try and simulate why it's been broken by somebody else. So I have these enabled. You'll see subsidiaries throughout the system. I'm not going to go too deep into subsidiaries. If you do want, once again, you do want more, have a look online at the City Access Knowledge Portal. Then we get this, add a logo. You can go add a logo or remove a logo. Once you add the logo here, it automatically appears in all of the reports. So if you run a report, it will open up and the logo will automatically be there. After that, the last thing we need to do when we're setting up the system, so you need to set this up for the first time before you do anything else, is you need to go set a custom series. Typically, it has a prefix, it has a starting number, and then this is the length of the number, so that my first customer number would be C0000 all the way out to 10 characters. And that includes the C, by the way. So it's C followed by 8 zeros and a 1. That's what the custom series would look like. iVend and product. Now you will see we actually have to set this up on a per store basis. And the reason for that is, remember, each store can go create their own customers and can create their own products and can even create their own vendors. So you do not want the vendors or customer codes from store 1 messing with the vendors or customer codes from store 2. Because then, well, then chaos, anarchy, database locks, all that sort of goodness will roam across the land. And we definitely don't want that. Right, finally, there is also a button for import settings, which I will get to in a minute. Yes, I can see we have a question coming up, if you can type quickly. So while I go and have a look at the next couple of things we need to set. Okay, well, I'm going to wait for that question to appear and then I'll answer it. Oh, here we go. Kirsty asks, can you have a many-to-one integration from enterprise to ERP? So if I kind of like this, I'm guessing. All right, where you've got one enterprise but many ERPs. Our integrations, okay, there's two levels to this answer. The first one is this is actually a slide I did for a custom integration that was being written by one of our partners out here. This was just to explain to them what we wanted. Typically, the short answer is no. The short answer is our integrations, the ones provided by City Access, do not do this. The City Access integrations are one enterprise, one ERP. If your company wants to write an integration that does that, that's fine by us. That's not a problem. But typically with us, we just go keep it one-to-one. Okay. I hope that answered it. Moving on. Okay, communication settings. This is where we go and we say, are you integrated through to your passbook? And remember yesterday I went and I said I would show you where did those appear to? Oh, right, here we go. There we go. So here's my iVend passbook. There you go. It's being displayed. Add to Apple Wallet. Name Keith. valid until if there's a balance. So you can do that. Once I add it to the passbook, it'll actually go and update it, and it will realize that it actually has got a value that goes with it. So that is something that you can set in iVend. That is something that you can set here. Well, we talked about passes yesterday, but that is something you go and you set here, and you can go put in your, is it integrated? You can also go put in your passbook settings. As soon as that opens up, there we go. And you can go put in username, password, your different templates that you use, and the different email templates that are used there too. Right, okay, Kirsty has another question. If you have one customer purchasing from multiple stores, well, can it consolidate to single AR customer and ERP? Yes, so Kirsty, that would be the customer roll-up that we talked about earlier. So yeah, that's probably the easiest way to describe it. Once again, look online, no problem. You're more than welcome. Yes, guys, and please remember, questions and things like that, let me actually know that you guys are still there and I'm not just speaking to a dead mic. Because, yes, because that at least lets me know that, hey, people are still actually listening to me and you guys haven't gone to sleep. Anthony! Yes. Can you hide fields in the client master for users? Yes, Aiden, we did actually go, I'll show you how to do that a bit later, but yes, you can. So you can actually go hide that so people don't see it. Okay. All right, I'm just going to put all the hands down so we can continue. Next up, okay, so here you also set your API server address, as well as your SMTP details. We do not actually have an email server within iVend. You just connect through to your local SMTP provider. Yes, you can do it through Gmail, as you can see. And as you can probably guess, we are our emails are hosted by Gmail. Not that that stops us from occasionally having issues with them. And also to enable SSL and all the rest of those good things. You can also integrate through, we do have a set of SMS gateways that we are already integrated through to. You can integrate through to other SMS gateways. That is what iVend extensibility is for. If you want to integrate to ones that are local, that's fine. That's not an issue. It's the same thing over here for us. We can also probably write it for you. Once again, you will be charged for that. But these are the generic ones that we've done at the moment. Nexmo is actually probably the most responsive. They seem to have the best API at the moment that we know about. But all of those, all the ones that you saw there work worldwide. And yeah, once you connect it through, you can work with them. That's not an issue. All right, system display settings we saw earlier. Countries, yeah. States, yeah. They're just basically a list of these. It's not like they have too much information that is recorded in them. It's just merely to go say that they're there and they exist. Obviously, if you have not that they're creating too many new countries. South Sudan, I think, was the latest one that happened. So what exactly is going on over there? Yeah, nobody really knows. Zip codes are typically used for your zip code validations. That's very much a US thing. So, yeah. Messages. There are various places in the system where you can go set messages. You can go set these for like a job code or a system or a product. As soon as somebody does something, you can have a message pop up for it. On the sales complete screen, you can have a message over there, a customer group. All of those are places you can go set your messages. You can put in what the source is or what that might be. So for specifically an employee, or if it's a system that obviously creates it out, POS, you can set it for specific ones of those, specific products. All of those can be set here. You can set specific start time, start date, end time, end date, so that it will pop up and say, for instance, if it's at the point of sale, please remember that next week there is please remember stock take next week. There we go. After that, document number series. Just to be clear, iVend technically doesn't actually need you to set up any document number series to actually work. That's because we have our own internal document number series within the system itself. However, Having said that, is the second that you're integrating through to an ERP, you're probably going to need a document number series. It's, yeah, pretty much required. So there are a number of them that you can set up. You can set up what's called a default series, which means that it will apply for most of the documents in the system. Here we go. Let me show you. You can do things for purchase orders, stock transfers, quotations, all these ones over here. There is a batch of them that you can set. You can set a default series, which means it will automatically do a default for most of them in the system. There are still some that you would need to do on the side, but that's up to you. You can also go and do things like setting prefixes and suffixes and start dates, end dates, start numbers and end numbers, as well as also setting it for specific stores, as well as setting it for specific point of sale devices if you really wanted to go down that far down the rabbit hole. Reset it at the end of day or not. It doesn't need authorization codes. Is their description is active, and what is the current number? So those are things that can be set there. After that, we get to the export configuration package. Now, we do realize that setting up and getting iVend up and running is a little bit different to your normal ERP experience. Typically, this is because in your normal ERP experience, you have your ERP and it just sits here on one box, and it is one database. And it is pretty easy to go manage things that way, because if it's just an ERP, you can go say back up and restore the database, and hey presto, instant test database. Sweet. However, the problem is with iVend is it's a little bit more complex, because we don't have one database. We have multiple. So however many databases are for each store, and also the enterprise. This in turn means that it gets a little bit complex for going and backing up and restoring and doing test systems and things like that. There are a number of ways you can do that in iVend. The big thing about this is that obviously first thing you're going to want to do is when you're going and setting up the system, you're going to want to set up a test database for the ERP. And then you're going to want to set up a test database for iVend, just to go and check that everything links through, that it all works, that communication is working. Once you've done that, obviously you're going to want to set up the live database. So once you've got everything working in the test database over here, you can then go across to the export configuration package, export set, go over here to which ones you want to export. We do not export things like products, though we do export things like product groups. And you can choose whether you want to export those or how you want to export those. Once you go and you export this, it will create an export template. Then the sharp item, you might remember that there is a import settings button here. So when you set up the new database, you can then go import settings, and it will import in the test database. It will import in that database information that you've exported. Now, please be aware, this export configuration package thing is affected by which localization you're using. And please just check online. There are some notes about there on how to use it and what exactly to do. Once again, I don't really have that much time to go through it today. After that, okay, so now we've finished system initialization. So now effectively you have a system that is kind of there and kind of ready to start working. Well, it's kind of ready to actually log back in. Now we can start to set up the actual main individual bits and pieces in the system. And these are going to include things like your search grid definition. So if I go here to customer search, this is basically saying which columns do I want in my customer search. So these are which columns do I want over here or not. I can also do things like changing my search grid column definition. So these, so for instance, if I go back to my customer search, there it is. Right, and I click search over here, it's which columns do I want to go and appear here, ID, first name, last name, phone number, blah, 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 blah. I can go set that, and which ones show in grid, which ones don't. You'll see there's a batch of tables, there's table names, there's field names, what exactly goes there, and what's the caption, and which sequence does it appear in as well. You can adjust all of these to exactly how you want. And you'll see that there's a lot of very good information here. By the way, if you are more interested in how the database is actually set up, there is an online help. You can download it. Once you've downloaded it, it will give you full access and information about how and where everything is hiding in the database. If you're one of those who wants to go and look at things that way, feel free. Right, beyond that, post-transaction info grid, we're phasing out this in most things that we do today, but so that's not really something I'm going to go too far into. The report manager, that's here. You can load up your own reports. You can export these reports. Once you export them, you can you can then edit them and then import them back into the system again. There you go. There's your XML, your path and your XML. You will get an XML with these, because what will happen is the XML is used for your variables if you're going to load them up into here. But there's various things you can do over here. Once again, there are some videos online. You can look at that. I'm not going to dive too deeply into it because, yeah, it's once again one of these things that we don't really have time for. User-defined fields, that you can load up additional fields onto your individual, onto various things on here. For instance, on the product field, I've got a batch of I've got one additional field that's been added. You can set what data type it is. You can go set so string, decimal, Boolean, valid values, image. Is it searchable? Does it connect through to there are other ways you can also go connect it through to different tables in the background, but that happens a bit further on in the actual system. This is very handy, particularly if you just need something to just quickly add to the end. There are also certain fields that will come through from your ERP to here. Please, once again, check what your integration says. Some of them do bring things through, some of them do not. Okay, validation rules. You can also set certain validation rules in the system. I showed you earlier with the right click. You can go and, so let me go over here to enterprise. So with the right click, we can set up various validation rules. Make field non-editable, make this field mandatory, maximum length, minimum length, set length range. These ones over here, these ones from the right click menu are stored over here in your validation rules setup. That does mean that you can set them and then you can come here and decide, oh, hang on, wait, actually that's the wrong field. I need to go and change it from non-editable to editable, or you can come over here and basically delete them and change them how you want. Because obviously if you make a mistake, you need to be able to undo it. Beyond that, validation rules, property caption setup. So this over here is the captions which you saw I went and accessed earlier by the right-click menu. Change caption. Those are associated here in the property caption setup. Okay, next up we get to email SMS template. Now, obviously, while we don't have a mail monkey type effort in here, we do have some ways to go and communicate with customers. And this includes your email and SMS template search. Right there, you can go set up your email and SMS templates. So here's your email template. You'll see it's this % enterprise name %. That's one of the variables. You get that by right-clicking. You can adjust this in pretty much any way you want. You can even copy-paste. If you're one of those who is familiar with HTML or XML, you can go right. There's your HTML edit mode, as well as there's your preview just to go see what it looks like. You can also go set up your SMS template, where once again, if you're using one of our SMS gateways, you can use this over here to go set that up. There is a spell check over here. There you go, ABC spell check. You can also copy and paste from Word. You can even embed YouTube videos if you want. It's quite comprehensive for what it does. Once again, up to you what exactly you want to do and what you want to use. You can also set what you want. Is it email and SMS, or is it just email, or is it SMS? Please be aware that if you have not set up the SMS section, you might tick SMS here, but it's still not going to send SMS until you set that section up. Yes, I have had that question before. Next up, once you've set up your email and SMS templates, we get to our schedule managers. Now, our schedule managers over here this allows us to do a number of very nice little tricks and treats for the system. And the first one that one of the first ones that we can do is this little one over here called Run on Request. So I can go have a keyword here. Let's go sales group, for instance. And I can go and have that loaded up as an SMS template on my phone. And let's say I want to go and find out what the sales in the group were for today. I can SMS this keyword through the SMS gateway to my iVend. Once I've done that, it will then trigger this report to run, and it will either email it back to me or SMS the response back to me. There are some things you do need to do to get it to SMS back, but it will basically send it back to me. So I can, at any time of the day, I can use this to email and have it respond back to me in one clean shot, one clean fell swoop. Beyond that, I can also go and send out, I can do reports, I can send them out at certain times, certain dates with certain intervals. So if on Monday morning, sales has a report that they cannot live without, even though they never look at it, you can make sure that Monday morning, that report is in their inbox, going in, with all the other unread emails that they've got. So that will be there. You've got your, how does it repeat? Anything from minutes to daily, weekly, hourly, yearly, and then for every interval type that you might want. You can even say which days of the week it goes on. You can even go say what's the start date, start time, how long do you run it in, and repeat so many times, and then end date and end time. Next up, we also have your actual report template, so that gets set through here. You can set certain of these reports to run with certain variables, but those are set at the time that you actually run the report. You can also link this through to a query. And once again, the same run and request will work for it. And you can also do a campaign. Campaigns are typically set for your emailer, or generally set for your emailers. For your email campaigns to your customers, you can go set campaign and it will automatically email to all of those. Import data. Because obviously no system is complete without a way to import data in. We can import most data into here. We are slightly limited on some of the transactions though. So primarily because a lot of the transactions, if it's historical data, it's in the ERP. We can do some transactions over here, but there's a slight limit on it. But otherwise, anything from alternate items through to countries, customers, employees, there you go, job codes, language translations, layaways, shipping types, special price lists, vendors, zip codes, child products, subsidiaries, vendor warehouse items, user-defined tables, and even down to promotions. You can import those in. And then just like you can import those in, you can also export them, so you can send them out of the system too. Yeah, because that is actually, yeah, because obviously you are going to need to get that out of the system sometimes, because yeah, sometimes you do need to actually go and get the data out to go work with, but you can do it through here. That's not a problem. After that, we also have our notification view, which is over here. You can also get it by clicking on this little button over here in the corner. It's exactly the same view. And on this one, if you have any notifications, like I have over here, I'll be able to go drill down and see, for instance, hey, somebody put in a purchase order. I will even be able to click on the little hourglass and that'll, well, little magnifying glass, and that will take me down to the actual purchase order itself. And one, by the way, that is also available at the point of sale. As it's thinking hard. Okay, come on. There we go. So there we go. That will then go and say what I've been alerted on. And yes, I can even go drill down through to the purchase orders themselves. There you go. So next up, is how do I actually set those up? I've got my alert notification settings here. And as you can see, I've got them for price changes and purchase orders. Now, the one thing I do want you to realize is that there are certain types that are set automatically in the system, but I do have the option to do a query. If I do a query, it changes the options slightly. So we'll come back to queries in a minute. But I can set this up for purchase orders, stock transfer requests, price list changes, bonus buyer creation, goods issues, receipts creation, transaction request, transaction response, and if a POS is going offline or not. I can set all that in here. And depending on what I actually select, so it does actually go change some of the options that I do have here. You see transaction response and transaction request. Yeah, that doesn't really change too much, but you can see where you can see how it does change. For instance, do I require a report or not? If I select query, it does actually go and include another option for schedule, which you'll see is not available if I just select purchase order. Before I come back to that, we'll come back to that in a second, but at the moment I can set my report, I can set whether it's active, I can choose to go and add all users, which means it will automatically put all my users here and everyone gets an alert. Or I can even go and set the email and SMS template that I get. So yes, you can have this email and SMS right out of the system, and that's on top of the schedule manager that I talked about earlier. So this is besides that. So you've got two ways to go and alert people. If you really want to get hold of them, you can go and have it emailed and SMS'd twice, which probably just means they're going to ignore it extra hard. But on the other hand, right there, at least you can go say, you see, the system works. Yeah, it's not the system, because of course that's the first thing everybody blames. It says, oh, I never got the email. No. You got two emails. You didn't just get one, you got two. And then over here on the user notifications, I can say which users at which stores get an email alert, an application alert, and an SMS alert. So nobody is missing this in any way, shape, or form. Now, like I said, you can go and change your type to query, and it opens up this little thing called schedule. Now, schedule allows you to go and actually do it allows you to do a schedule. Yeah. I mean, really, guys, this is pretty straightforward. So I'm sure that you're all familiar with this. You got your intervals. So everything from minutes to months. Run on which days of the week, start date, start time, run until how many times, and then repeat how many times, and then also go to the end date or end time. Okay, so those are automatically set over here. Next. Okay, that is the lightning fast way through there. I'm hoping we get up to a retail configuration. We'll try and get as far as I can over there, but let's see how far we get today. And questions? Victoria apparently can't hear me. I'm very sorry, Victoria, but unfortunately my sign language is terrible. So you are going to have to listen to the recording or restart. Sorry about that. I do hope you get that fixed soon. All right, next up, currencies. Because yes, you have to set up all this stuff before you can actually go sell things. Next up, first thing that I want to have a look at is actually the US dollar over here, and you'll see that I don't have a rand currency here. That's because I'm not actually, I've kind of snookered the system a bit so that it will think that it says it's selling rands, but actually everything in the background is in dollars. So if I open up the dollars over here, there's a very important checkbox that we have, and that's this one, base currency. That needs to be checked in order to sell anything in the system. If that, essentially the system needs a currency that is the base, that is your currency that you're working with. You have got this currency, that's it. And that's what you're selling everything with. Afterwards, you can also, you'll see over here it's got something such as a description and then also culture information. The culture information for your base currency needs to be the same as the culture information that is set over here in the enterprise. If it isn't, it will be set. If it isn't, there will be a conflict, and everything will appear in US dollars. Even if you've got everything else set up right, it will still appear in US dollars. You need to have that right here. Next up, you can also do things like adding detail, and these over here is for instance, if you are going to go and actually track things such as your individual coins, coins and notes in the system. So for instance, I might have a 1 Rand, Rand, and that is 1. Then I've got 2 Rand, that is 2, and it also works for the cents, for cents. So for instance, 10 cents, and that's 10. There we go. Now the entire reason that you would do this is to go and actually make sure that you have a specified number of rands and cents in the system. Okay, or specified number of coins and notes in the system, I should say correctly for everyone who is overseas. Some places they do want to actually go and keep track of that. Having said that, most places I know don't. They just want to know, hey, we got however many thousand whatever in here. That's it. So that is something that would be set here. That's something that once it's in, it's ready, it's done. Next, once you, I do want to point out with the currency is obviously you can have multiple currencies. There's nothing stopping you from having more than one, but you can definitely go and have a, you can have as many currencies as you want. There is no limit to currencies. Obviously, if you're integrated through to an ERP system, please make sure that the currency codes match, because typically the currency code should come from the ERP to iVend, but if there's a currency code that does not match, please just be aware of that. Please also be aware, in some cases we integrate currency codes from iVend back to the ERP, in some cases we do not. Once again, please check your local integration to see how it exactly works. So over here, once you set the exchange rate, you'll see it lists the base currency details. So yes, dollars. Yeah, that's the base currency. Description, culture info. Then we can also say, what is our date range? So is it just for here for a specific time period, or is it for a specific where is it? All the way to there. Okay, is it for a specific time period? If that's the case, I actually think I'm a couple of months out here, so let's just take that up to 07 and that up to 07 as well. The 3107 I don't think is a date. Oh yeah, it is. There we go. Getting confused with June here. Yeah. So you can then go and set your different exchange rates within that specific time period. So if that is 0.02 or whatever the case might be, you can go and say how that exactly works, and you can go do forward. You can do a forward cover if you want. Typically, once again, we pull this from the ERP system if we can. So yeah, just be aware that if somebody hasn't loaded up the exchange rate in the ERP and that hasn't integrated through for the day, then you will not be able to really do sales in a foreign currency, because the store will not know what the foreign currency is or how to go and associate that. All right, then we get down to payment types. Now, payment types, like I said yesterday, you can have as many of them as you want. As you see, I've actually got 15 over here, but I only have, if I have a look over here at my payments, you'll see that I only have, right. Okay, that requires approval and has been suspended. There we go. I've only got 12 payment types for the sharp eye of you out here, but I might have more that might be assigned to different tills that different ones can use. Over here, I've got, I start off, I will generally have one at cash, but then I'll have the rest of them as we go further on. Right, so here's cash, and we'll go through our different subsidiary types. In fact, just to do that, let me go new, because we do have many different types of payment type that you can use. if anyone is asking for cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ripple, Ethereum, those ones, no, we do not. Those ones would typically be done under custom, and then somebody's going to need to write an integration through to a payment gateway for that because, yeah, as much as places like Venezuela and Zimbabwe love them, most of the other places that we work don't. So, yeah, got to be careful of those. Anyway, so you can do cash, check, credit card, custom, debit card. EBT is electronic benefit transfer. That is for the US. As far as I know, pretty much nowhere else uses EBT. Gift certificates, store credit, loyalty, foreign currency, on-account traveler's check, and vouchers. So those are your options to pay for things. And depending on what you select, so for instance, I've got cash, you'll see certain things look grayed out. If I change it to check, you'll see other things gray out and some things ungray. As well as if I go to custom, it changes around as well. Now, you need to set your code, description, which subsidiary is using it, what type of payment type you have, what currency. You can change the currency under certain circumstances. For instance, if it is custom, then you can actually go over here and we can say it is euros. Surprise. Yeah, just make sure that it's the right currency. Make sure it's the right currency. Obviously, if it's something like cash, then it's dollars. Cash is dollars, that's it. Cash being your primary currency. Is it counted or not? This typically means that does it affect your how much money you have in the till? Foreign currencies, yes, would typically be counted. Gift certificates are sometimes counted. Cash is always counted. I mean, that's just a rule. Cash is counted. Done. Next one is count type. What sort of count do you do? Is it in a summary or detail? This comes in this comes in when we do our day ends and our cash ups there. The fact of the matter is that when you do your actual when you do your count types and your display when you do your count types there, it's going to go ask, do you go and count? Do you just tell the system, I have 10,104 Rand with 2 cents or well, 10 cents these days? Or do you actually go say, no, we've got five 100 Rand notes, two 50 Rand notes, two 20 Rand notes, and so on and so on and so on. That's the detailed count. The summary count is you just put in a number. You just say, I've got 1,104 Rand and 10 cents. Display order, that determines where it appears over here on this. So you see I've got check at the bottom. If I wanted it to go cash check, I could go change it so that check goes and appears on the second level over here. Is it active or not? Yeah, to give you, there are examples of this. There is things that are active and then get deactivated. Typically, I do see this with loyalty. Zimbabwe has most recently had this where they were using dollars, and now I see there's a mandate to use this new RGB, whatever it is, thingy that they've got going around, and I can guarantee you, I'll give it about 5 minutes and they'll be back on the dollars. So, all right. So anyway, so what's happening over here is we can just go see all good there. So what's happening over here is we can go see that we have got our we can go and see exactly where it's active. You can also go see your default amounts, your minimum amounts, your maximum amounts that you can take. Like I mentioned yesterday about the example of Italy, where Italy, well, that's those were for your discounts and surcharges, but the other thing in Italy is you are not allowed to go and spend more than 3,000 euros in cash, primarily because of the mafia. No word of a lie. It's the mafia. They are because obviously they deal extensively with cash. They just went and said, no, you can't do that. If you're doing cash, then no more than 3,000 euros. That's it. Is it authorized? Do we use a test payment processor or not? If you're using a test payment processor, typically that is with your credit cards. Ta-da! Okay, because you use a test payment processor while you're doing your testing, and then when you're not doing testing, you untick that, and then you use the proper payment processor. Yeah, makes it easy. After that, you can also say, do you refund the specific payment type? Now, for some places do not refund, for instance, credit cards. They will instead give you store credit. Indeed, some places do not even refund cash. They will rather give you store credit, store policy to give you store credit or a gift certificate or something like that. The entire reason for that is if I'm a store owner and I give you your cash back, then you can take that money and spend it somewhere else. But if I give you store credit, you have to spend that money with me. Guess which one I'm going to choose? The one that makes sure that I keep your money and maybe even get a bit more. After that, but once again, that's also subject to your local laws. I know that in some countries you are not allowed to do that. Once again, the international side of iVend rears its head, and yeah, we have to go. You guys as consultants are going to need to know what your local laws are. If the local law says you have to give cash back, well then you have to give cash back. Sorry. Does it require a signature or not? Print payment receipt, print payment receipt, payment receipt format. So how does that look? We'll come to how you set up the formats a bit later down. Print payment receipt count. So how many payment receipts does it print? Typically that's 2. Having said that, however, your payment receipts over here are typically run through the they typically run through your payment gateway, and your payment gateway will handle that, or at least out here in South Africa. In other places, you may be required to go print that. Up to you. Open the cash drawer, yes or no. Does it open the cash drawer? Yes or no. If it's cash, then it's probably yes. If it's not cash, then probably no. There are various degrees with this. Gift certificates do, for instance, have that happen. Do you use rounding, and what sort of rounding do you use? Round to the nearest 10/100th, round to the 500th, round to 1. How exactly do we go and put that into the system? For instance, out here in South Africa, I think we've done away with the 5 cents at the moment. So nobody, you can still spend them, but nobody really accepts them. And yeah, so it's 10 cents and up. So everything gets rounded to the nearest 10th. Then is it integrated with the ERP or not? Is it treated as on account, or is it just an information tender type? Most of those you can actually ignore unless it's integrated. Then you need to be aware of those. Once again, check what your integration says, what you need there. And does it require management authorization or authorization for refund? Because those are 2 different things. Sometimes to pay with something you might need managed authorization. Other times you might need managed authorization for refund. Finally, mask card number. Yes, yes, that's pretty much mandatory these days. Most places want you to mask the card number because you'd be surprised at how terrible some of these cashiers are at being able to remember which buttons to press, and how amazing their memories are at being able to remember credit card numbers. Even though they appear on the screen for less than 10 seconds. Yeah, they can do it. Don't go there. Next thing up is allow overtender, and once again, typically this happens with cash. If you allow overtender, so for instance, I can pay, so cash being the ideal example. So let's say I'll buy something for $70. With cash, I generally won't have $70 worth of cash on me, or 68 Rand 12. I won't have that amount of money on me. Instead, I will have, I'll have a 100 Rand note, or 250s, or a 50 and a 20, for instance, if I'm to use my 68 Rand example. So in that particular case, I'm going to give more money, and then I want change back. So that's the case there. That's the case with cash. However, Typically with credit cards, you don't overtender because with a credit card or a debit card, you pay the exact amount. Once you pay that, and that amount exactly gets deducted off your account. And then how much can you overtender by? So for instance, you can basically say, hey, look, you can't pay for a can of Coke with a 200 Rand note. Okay, not allowed. You know, so something's, but typically the reason to stop that is because of counterfeiting. Because that's the counterfeiters typically go for your high value notes, at which point you're going to go say, yeah, no, there's something fishy about you paying $200 for a can of Coke. Also, does it affect the tipple amount? The tipple amount being how much cash you have in the till. So do you have, say, so how much is actually in there? Is it, say, if you've got 10,000 Rand, well, you want to know how much is actually in the physical cash drawer. Yeah, so that's what the tipple amount is, and also allowed for partial tender. So you can actually say, yeah, with the credit card, you might need to do full tender, but with, say, cash, you can do partial tender for it. If you do want to do that, you can split it. It's up to you. There are various setups that are available as well. So for instance, if I go custom, I can also set up additional payment type attributes. That's why I say that if you want to do these cryptocurrencies, you're probably going to do custom, and then there's going to be a batch of additional things you need to set. That's up to you and how you do it. I'm not going to go through this because this can get a bit complicated, and we're also running out of time. And you can finally say which stores it's applicable at. So certain stores, for instance, your Cape Town stores, they might use a specific payment type, because when it integrates through to your ERP, there is a specific bank account that's based in Cape Town that payment type integrates through to, whereas all your stores in Johannesburg use a different bank account because there's a different bank account that they integrate through to. Yeah. Finally, the surcharges, the discounts, I mentioned these yesterday. I'm not going to, I explained these yesterday with that, with the Italian job. So you can go and if you remember that, well, if you don't remember that, let me know and I will just quickly go over it again. Next up, tax codes we've been through, but beyond that, you can also set things that are tax events. So let's go over here. The tax event being a specific time and place where there is additional tax attracted by something. So for instance, a specific customer group, product or product group. To give you an example of this is Dubai is hosting the World's Expo in 2022, I think. With that, the expo over here, the expo over there, I should say, the expo over there is set up in such a way that, well, it obviously needs to be funded. And while Dubai does have a lot of oil, it doesn't have quite enough to go pay for the expo. Because of that, they have now gone and said, no. There's an extra tax that's attracted by any, it's any foreigners in the region. So, and as a foreigner in the region, you've got extra tax that you need to pay when you're there in Dubai. Yes, that's one of the. I was there last year, and yeah, I saw that on my bill as sort of extra tax, just because, well, you have some more tax, because you can set that here if you want to. If not, well, then you don't have to. You just need the tax codes in order for tax to work. Beyond that, there's also tax condition setup. Now, the tax condition setup is one of these things that I kind of mentioned earlier with the US and places like Denver, Colorado, where they've got like 8 different factors that determine which tax you use, at what time, at what place, at what angle of the moon. Seriously, it's bizarre. But with this, you can go say which subsidiary gets what tax, which business partner, so is it a customer group, vendor, or vendor group gets a tax. So I can quite literally say this person, when he buys from this subsidiary, when he buys this specific product or product group or product class, class or group, there you go, from this specific store or store group, and he pays this amount of money, but he pays more than this, but less than that, Then, and he's also having it sent to this specific place. And with that, you can also go say, and it's a specific color or a specific size. And yes, it goes on and on and on. And it also has the specific user-defined field value. In fact, we've got 3 different user-defined field values you can do. Between this date and that date, at this time, he will get that tax code. So yes, if I went and I bought, well, let's just say if I bought a guitar from a specific store that was to be delivered to a specific address in another state, at another place, during a specific time, with a specific value that was associated with it, that's a specific color, that's maybe even a specific size, then I will get that tax code associated with it. So yes, iVend can handle your tax needs. Of course, setting it up is a complete pain, but once you've set it up, it's done. And I believe you can actually import this as well. Surcharges. Now, surcharges over here these are designed to be just extra charges that are occurred in the system. These could be as simple as, if I have a look at one of the other ones that's here, for instance, FedEx. So FedEx might have a specific amount that they go and they charge to go and ship something. Yeah, you can just go put that, you can put that on there. What is the amount type? What is the amount? Is it discountable? Is it refundable? Is it taxable? Which tax codes does it use? Does it get loaded on item costs? So for instance, if I buy something and I apply a surcharge to have it shipped to me, does that then affect the item cost when I buy it? And then I could also use it as a payment discount surcharge while it's being refunded, which basically means that I can take an admin fee from I can set this up as an admin fee to be taken from a specific from a specific item when I'm doing a refund. So yes, because for instance out here in South Africa, if you're doing a refund for a lay-by, then you can take a 1%, it's a 1% administration fee, I believe they call it. So yeah, because you've had to administer their money. Yes, you can set that up over here. And you can set it up to be either a percentage or an amount, as you've seen, as well as what that will be set over here. That will be set per surcharge. You can also associate those with specific items. So yes, we can handle that. Next up, we've got banks. And we're almost done for today, but there are 1 or 2 more things I do want to go through. Which banks you've got out here. The bank over here is really just it's just a flag to go say, hey, this bank is being used in this place at this time. It's more for reporting purposes than anything else. And generally, the bank over here will be associated with, will be things that would go through to your, would be associated with what would go through to your ERP. Sorry guys, it's I've been talking for for an hour and 40 minutes here, and yeah, it's hour and 45 minutes I should say, and I'm losing all my words. Okay, the last thing I want to go through today is we're going to head to retail configuration, which is the largest section over here, and obviously I am not going to get through this all today. Having said that, there is one thing I do want to get through, and that is the the payment processor, because that is associated with financial things. Tomorrow we're going to go through retail config and finish up the rest of it, as well as go through operations, as well as started on operations and get to some of the reports. Once we've done that, then yeah, there's some other bits and pieces we need to go and show around, but we're actually not doing too badly for time. But the payment processor over here allows you to go and allows you to go integrate with certain payment processors that we have already integrated with. Now, please check your local area for which payment processors we do use. They are obviously in places like Kenya. M-Pesa is almighty. Really, if you do not integrate through to M-Pesa, you are dead in the water. But we are, by the way, we are integrated through to them. but there are others that there are other things that can be used. Well, there are other ones worldwide that are used in various places. It is a country thing, I've found. Okay, so over here, first off, is it a mobile processor? What they mean by this is, can it be used by the mobile point of sale? Typically, that is a pre-planned one that we've already got loaded into the mobile point of sale, so you can set that there. Next up is, what sort of account type is it? This doesn't really sort of set exactly which one it is, but yeah, there are certain ones that you do need to be aware of over here. There are certain ones you do need to be aware of over here that can go and affect the way that things need to be set up. Typically, it's the only one that you would select is others. Otherwise, you can go say, so for instance, if it is directly with Amex, with Amex being American Express, or Diners Club being two of the payment processors that are worldwide, but not as worldwide as, say, Visa and MasterCard, those do have other settings that go further on down the line, but those are typically set in your, those are typically set up by the payment gateway themselves. You just need to go tell them this is a specific type for Diners Club or a specific type for Visa or Amex. There's also things like Discover Card, JCB, Carte Blanche, Maestro, which is actually your MasterCard debit card debit card section department, as well as Visa Electron, which is the debit card version of Visa. And then finally, there's also China Union Pay, which in recent years has actually come around to go say, well, hey, there's this a huge country called China, and they want to go do their own thing with technology. So you end up with things like China Union Pay. Much joy. Once you've selected your account payment type, I'm going to select it back to others. You can then, by the way, this selection over here does not affect your next selection over here for your payment processor. But these are the ones that we are integrated through to, and you'll see there's plenty here. There's Caledon Card, Cayenne, which is one of the big ones in Europe. Global Payments is another one, Heartland Swipe. Innovation is the local South African one that I use. Mercury, Ergon, PayPal, Plutus, SecurePay, Tender Retail Transfers, these are all other ones that are there. Yes, we do have one to PayPal, which is big in America. So, well, big in America and Europe. And once you select that, depending on what you select here, so I'm going to select, where is it gone now? There you go, Innovation. There you go, it'll load up the assembly name and class name. You go to config, this typically over here, I know it says SMS Global Setup, but it's actually for Innovation. This gets provided to you by the guys from your payment gateway. They go and they will give you the information you set there. Once you set that, you can then do a test through to check that it works, and it will automatically say, aha, yes, we see you. So it does now work. Now, the information that needs to go there is typically different for your different configs that go through. Like, for instance, I selected this, and now it's got a very different one that needs to be set here. And that's for eSelect Plus. Personally, I'll just go with Innovation. It's pretty straightforward and simple. If there is the ability to go dev your own payment processor integrations, that is available on our knowledge portal, including example projects about how you do it. It is actually relatively straightforward. Depending on the complexity of the processor, for very simple processors, quite literally, I saw one guy, we've got well, there is actually another payment processor out here we can use. It's a guy called Vexen. But he is quite literally a very small one-man band. He developed the integration through to Vexen in basically about 8 hours. And that's from going and knowing nothing about iVend at all. So it can be pretty quick. But then again, on the other hand, I've seen, there was one that we had to do for Nigeria that's taken like 3 weeks because of bad documentation, issues with the way things are set up, issues with what they're receiving and what they're sending us, and other things like that. So yes, just be aware, things can take time. But it can be quick, and it can be, and obviously like all things in computers, it can take forever. And that takes me up to 11:56 on my time, which basically means that I'm going to start, that I'm going to end it here today, because that's a good spot to end. And it also gives me a couple of minutes for questions. If there are no questions, just type no questions, because then at least I know that you were there and you were watching. Trust me, I've got a bit of software here that's actually going and monitoring you and saying, well, it's monitoring who's watching and who's actually going and keeping an eye on things or not, at least as far as it knows. It's still, by the way, it's still yet to crack into your webcams, but that'll happen by late tomorrow. No questions. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Philip. Okay, all right, that's good. Many thanks. Okay, no problem, Kirsty. And by the way, I was joking about the webcams thing. Okay, thank you, Carla. All right, if there's no other questions, that's great news then. I'm glad to see we picked up a couple of people as we went along. That's sorry you couldn't join us at the beginning, but I'm glad to see you joined us later. Okay, if there's nothing else, I am going to go and end it and say thanks, guys. I'm going to go and have lunch. And, well, actually, no, I'm going to go have another meeting. But that's besides the point. Okay. Thank you so much, guys, and we'll chat again soon. See you tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel.